It feels so good to sit down and watch a movie that you're really hyped for and to actually have that hype fulfilled. One of the rare cases I've experienced that this year. So Poor Things, how do I even begin to describe this thing? Poor Things is a romantic science fantasy black comedy film. That's actually how Wikipedia describes this film. It's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who is a director that I will always show up for on day one when he has a new film. My favorite of his is probably The Lobster, which I believe was his debut. Could be wrong on that. I recently watched The Favorite and The Killing of a Sacred Deer just to experience some of his other films. And I'll say this, his style doesn't always work. I was a bit more mixed on those two films. They just didn't have the same creative energy that The Lobster had. I mean, who thinks of an idea like that? A dystopian society in which humans turn into animals if they don't find a spouse by a certain deadline. And conceptually speaking, I think this is his most ambitious film, which really drew me to it. The film follows Emma Stone as Bella Baxter. She's a science experiment, a woman who committed suicide and is brought back to life from the dead by Willem Dafoe's character. Forgot his character's name for a second. It's Godwin. And I should have remembered that because Bella aptly calls him God through most of the film. I think the way to best describe this, though, is think Frankenstein if Frankenstein's monster was Emma Stone. It is fairly simplistic in that it's about this one character and her odyssey of self-discovery, but it does feel very Frankenstein with a feminist twist on it. I think Poor Things is definitely Lanthimos at his most stylish, so if you don't like his style, you might not like this, but again, I think it has fallen flat before, and here it just feels super at home. It has an extremely Victorian setting, but also indulges in a lot of the weird oddities that this director is known for. I mean, from the opening scene, which is shot in black and white, which was a nice contrast to the very colorful images that we'll see later on in the film. But in that opening scene, we see Emma Stone waddling around like a penguin because she essentially has the brain of an infant and is still learning to walk. And there are like goats walking around with pig heads and other weird amalgamations that are creations of Godwin. Lanthimos just loves to make weird, disturbing, unusual, completely bizarre shit, and I am all for that. It does jump from location to location a lot, so I was surprised to learn that most of the sets used were actually built from scratch, and some of them are miniatures, a lot of really creative decisions there. Let's get it out of the way now, too. Emma Stone delivers one of the best performances of her entire career in this film. Genuinely was blown away by how much I was engaged with this character, and that's partly due to the writing, but also her performance brings so much out. And early on, when she still basically has the mind of a child, she does such a good job of encapsulating the mannerisms that a child would have. Not only that, but also the way she conveys Bella's feelings at various points in the film. She starts out very cold and distant, and eventually she develops feelings of empathy. In addition to being a feminist piece, Poor Things has a lot to say about the human experience, and not in a pretentious way, I know how that sounds, but it was genuinely quite thought-provoking. And the way her language progresses as the film goes on too, it's just everything was so well thought out and meticulous. Eventually she meets another character played by Mark Ruffalo who takes her on an adventure, a very debaucherous one. After all, one of the main themes of this film is sexual liberation, so definitely don't take your family to it, it's very R-rated. But in addition to being very dramatic, it's also darkly comedic at times.
Bella.
Why I keep it in my mouth if it is revolting? I must go punch that baby.
This movie is just, it's everything that I was hoping it would be and then some. It is a bit long, 2 hours and 20 minutes, and if I have any issue with it, it's that the last 15 minutes go on a tangent that I didn't think was really necessary. Before that 20-minute period, it was at a point where I felt like it could just end there and I would be satisfied with it, and it went in another direction. Not that I dislike the ending, though. It does deliver one of the most WTF moments of the entire film that had the entire audience in uproar. There are so many images from this film that are just etched into my mind and will probably be there for a long time. It's visually magnificent, it's masterclass storytelling on display. The performances are just incredible all around. It's darkly tragic while also being uplifting in some weird ways. If you get the chance, please go out of your way to see Poor Things in theaters as soon as you can. It's probably the most original film I've seen in a long time, and it was so satisfying and entertaining. I'm gonna give Poor Things 5 out of 5 stars. This might be my favorite film of the entire year, although it is very fresh right now, so I'm gonna give it some time to settle before I truly decide. I will be making a top 10 or top 15 of the year sometime in the next couple of weeks. As always, I want to hear from you guys. If you did see Poor Things, let me know in the comments, what did you think of it? And which film from Yorgos Lanthimos do you think is the best? Stay tuned for that top 15 of the year, guys, and we've got a lot more movies to review this weekend, so I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for checking this one out.